I'm a development professional. I started working in Karnataka in Panchayat. When the 73rd Amendment took place, I started working with Panchayat women, and slowly I started getting interested in issues of livelihood. So as I got interested in issues of livelihood, my first work that I did was to get involved in setting up a grain bank with women members. Post that, I sort of moved to finish my PhD and then worked for some time in research projects, and then I decided I needed to work in a more policy framework. So I worked in ILO for about 8 years in a program which was looking at child labor and social protection. So I was heading that program, and then once that program was worked in sort of 4 or 5 states in India. After that, I decided to come and do sort of work in LabourNet. Maya is an old NGO, and I knew the team. So LabourNet was a concept which was just starting at that point of time. So I figured that you cannot look at identity of workers if you do not look at the overall ecosystem. So for me, LabourNet is about creating enabling livelihoods. First and foremost, one needs to recognize that there are people in the urban area. That recognition is still if at all, it's at our very peripheral level. Urban, the whole in India, still planning is for rural. Planning is not for urban. So what do there's a Jessica from IIHS used an exceedingly interesting thing, phrase, and I think that's completely right. So she was saying the poor experience the city. The rich actually have legal and statistical right to live in a city. If that is the case, how do you plan? Are you going to create ghettos where the rich can stay, and who services the rich? I mean, I don't mean to make it a class issue, but it is. So if we have to plan urban, we need to think livelihood, we need to think food, we need to think health. What happens is, even the way BPL is, the way in which below poverty line. So what we assume is, if there's a line which is created, the line above and below will determine. This line has no meaning in today's economy. In an urban case, you may earn 100 rupees per day, but have you ever thought about where am I going to stay? What am I spending on food? I think these are important discussions to happen. Then the second thing is, I think we also minimize the issue of communities and castes. If you ask me, with the kind of movements which are happening, and there is a caste movement which is fairly regressive in my opinion. Why are more Muslims in these cities? At some point there's an insecurity in living in as 1 or 2 people in rural areas, so they move to cities. LabourNet's registered database is a very large number of Muslim population, SC population. I think we need to look at those realities and plan around those realities. You can't just wish them away and wash that away and say, what, it's not happening. And that's what we do. We say, we should not encourage rural-urban migration. Who is encouraging it? It's a reality. Either you're going to bring enough jobs, enough livelihoods. You brought communication to rural areas, but have you brought anything else to match up with communication? You brought education, I agree. Universal education you have. Schooling has reached a lot of people. That has also created aspirations. I think what is required is one needs to work with a lot of young people, also people who are going to work in the field. Today we do not have a set of people who are working on these issues. When you have clear divides, you have people who are working as activists, you have people who are working in NGOs, and you have people working in enterprises. So I do believe that the IIHS model, not only the san-kranti, the IIHS model is looking at creating a group of professionals who are able to work in the particularly in the urban context, urban realities and social context, but also to look at things differently. The normal academic university students that you have, it pegs you. It says, you know what, you're an economist, you're a sociologist, you're a social worker, you're an architect, you're a planner. But if we need to solve a problem, we really need to go beyond these little straitjackets that we've created for ourselves. I think what would the mentors get from the students? I think would be very good. For me, if I was to look at it, I just think to myself, 15 years back, if I had somebody who I could really work with, express, my idealism, my vision, I could possibly have learnt a lot to say, you know what, this much is possible, this much isn't. And for the mentor, it's a learning program too. It's not a one way. Here, you know what, gray hair gives you this whole thing that, you know what, I know, but you haven't looked back to see what you don't know, what you've missed, because every day it's your reality, right? Yeah, every day you're doing something the same way that you're doing it. And I think to me the mentorship program is actually about the mentor learning from the student rather than the other way around. For the student, I think it possibly opens up fields they haven't thought about. Possibly they assume that if it's an enabling livelihood initiative like LabourNet, it's about skill training. They don't think, you know what, it's not only skill training, it's also about housing, it's also about food, it's also about information. So you need to, or they, it could be somebody who comes with an extremely, I'm assuming here, a lot of the young people are very techno savvy. So could come in with solutions which change. It could be process changes, because you're doing things in a hackneyed manner.